Get ready to unlock your full potential and change the trajectory of your life. This is the Steve Lags Unfiltered podcast. Hosted by the unstoppable force of inspiration himself, Steve Lags. He's on a mission to transform your mindset and help turn your dreams into reality. So strap in, hold tight. The Steve Lags Unfiltered podcast starts now.
Hi, I'm Steven Lagomarsino, and on today's episode, I have two amazing guests with me. We're going to be discussing real estate investing, mindset, success, and family. My guests are Brooke and Christian Torres. Both of these amazing individuals have built successful real estate investing careers. They've created an amazing family, and they live truly impactful lives. They are co-founders of Cash Cow Capital. And I don't say this often about people, but they are also two of the most genuine and amazing people that you will ever meet. They light up the room every time they walk into it. Brooke and Christian Torres, how we guys doing today?
Good, man. Thank you for the intro, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's incredible.
You like that?
I love it.
Yeah, well, I worked on that a lot. You guys made it pretty easy, though.
Well, I love how you talked about being genuine,
right?
And that is actually one of the things that Brooke and I that was our intention. When we moved to Florida, we moved to Miami,
right?
It was all intentional.
Yes.
And the intention behind it was authenticity and being genuine.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, well, authenticity, coming down to Miami, it's expensive.
Right.
You have two paths, right? You can flourish with the right people and participate in the right groups and contribute, or you can go down this path of partying, nightlife, drinking,
right.
and go into that dark tunnel.
Right.
And so our goal was to maintain success, but take it further and get around the right people, meet the right people, be friends with the right people, have prosperous conversations, be prosperous,
right,
and be abundant. And so for us, it was about being authentic first,
right,
so that we can be more and we can and just be more aware and tap into that spiritual side of us.
Right.
And you can't do that if you're not authentic.
And you guys accomplished that, because that's one of the first things I've learned about you when I got the pleasure to meet you guys and to get to know you guys. When you're looking at, we talk a lot about that, about surrounding yourselves with the people, like-minded people. Who you surround yourself is who you're going to become. When you look at people that you want to surround yourself with, what do you look for in people? Like, how do you read that? Yeah,
man. Well, I watch what they do,
right,
more than what they say.
Okay.
I come from an environment where a big reason why we moved too was because there wasn't a lot of authentic, genuine people that we were surrounded by.
Sure.
And so what I look for now is I pay attention to what people do, not just what they say.
Yeah. So that's why it's important for you to so when you look at what people do, not just what they say, how can you see that? You need transparency, right? So where do you look for that? Are you looking for that in how they live their lives, just professionally, or are you looking for in all aspects of life, also personally as well? Because some people think they go to their job and they shut it off, and now they could be a different person. Like, how do you look for that?
I look for how do you treat people? How do you treat the people around you? Right. How do you walk through life? How do you treat your family? How do you treat your kids? How do you treat your friends? Right. How do you treat strangers?
Yeah.
What are you saying to them? How are you reacting to things? Right. That to me is really important, because if you can't control yourself, obviously there's a long road to define all the negatives. Right. But I pay attention to how they treat other people.
Sure.
Even their families.
That's right. Yeah. And I think the way you treat what you put out in the world, you're going to bring back to you, right? It's a law of attraction. So if you're putting out a lot of positive energy out there, you're treating people well. I think, and I tell my children this all the time. This is what you're going to get back. If you, even with my daughters, the way they treat each other, I said, if you speak to each other like that and you guys get used to that, that's what you're going to attract back in this world. So learn to treat other people the way you want to be treated. Now, you also, you guys are married, super successful marriage. You work together.
Yes.
You have 2 children.
Yes.
2 amazing children. Now, I brought you on because you are genuine, and this podcast really is about being unfiltered. And what I hope we get out of this, you're very successful. We're going to share that in multiple aspects in life. And for me, success isn't just financial, it's everything in life, health, family, relationships.
Right.
But I want you guys to share the unfiltered version and share with people when we go through this conversation what they need to hear. Because I talk about this a lot. We all surround ourselves with people that'll tell you what you want to hear. And it's real nice that the nice stuff to make you feel better about yourself. But we need to share with people what they really need to hear to build the type of life that you guys have been able to build. We're going to get into that.
Yeah. Well, how do we define success?
Yes.
A lot of people look at just like the financial gain.
Yeah. So for you guys, success, when you guys sit down at the table, or you're working on you got dreams and you bring in the goals and you manifest them into reality. What do you guys, what does that look like for you when you guys are defining those goals that really define success for you?
Well, it's fulfillment, freedom, and flexibility.
Right.
It's the ability to do what we want, when we want, how we want, when we want, with who we want, with infinite time and money.
Right.
So we don't focus on just money, because money is just a byproduct to get us to where we want to go.
Right.
And you got to learn how to use money. You got to be disciplined with it. You got to understand, what it means, and you got to put it in the right places, like investing. Right. But it's not the goal. The goal is to live a prosperous life. Right. And it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. For us, it's an extraordinary lifestyle. We want to live an extraordinary lifestyle. What does that look like? We don't compromise. We're not settling. We get what we want. We do what we want, and it's on our terms. Right. That's how we define success.
Now, you get what you want, but what do you do when you don't get what you want when you want, and you hit some obstacles? How do you guys deal with that? Because
I self-reflect.
Okay.
What happened in this situation? Like, who was I? What version of myself was showing up? How was my energy like? So I start self-reflecting on how, what I did and who I am, and how I showed up to the situation that where I didn't get what I wanted.
Right. So you're reflecting on yourself. Are you making excuses?
No, you can't.
Are you the victim?
No, absolutely not. You can't.
Right.
You can't.
Why can't you? But maybe it's not your fault.
It's always my fault.
Okay.
It's always my fault. It's always my responsibility.
Right.
Because if we're not accountable to those things, and we don't take responsibility, then that means we're not in control. If you can't take responsibility for your own actions, your own thoughts, you can't be accountable, then who are you?
Right.
What are you? And if you're a victim of life, then that means you've lost control of yourself. And you're no good to nobody, and you're not good to yourself even. Right.
Yeah, I always, when things don't go your way, you got to identify immediately what you had control over and put all your energy there. And what would you say to people that maybe struggle with this, and they put their energy into the things they can't control and almost start having the victim mentality where that wasn't my fault? So, because a lot of people struggle with this. Brooke, what would you, what kind of advice could you give to people that struggle with that?
Yeah, I would say one thing that actually Christian brought into our relationship was to get over yourself.
Right.
So many times something would be unfair, right? And he'd say, like, we have to get over ourselves. We have to get over ourselves. And so one thing that Christian and I think like one thing that made us so successful in our relationship was the fact that we always had something bigger than just the relationship. We weren't so focused on the little things. We were always so focused on something bigger and better, and building on self-development every day. Like that is a non-negotiable for Christian and I. We have to constantly self-develop every single day, because the more emotionally intelligent we are, the better conversations that we can have, the better successes we can have, because we're not so hung up on these minute, irrelevant conversations or things.
Talk about self-development a little bit. So, right. So you guys work on developing yourselves. You're a couple and you work on being aligned together as a married couple.
Yeah.
How do you guys accomplish that? What is self-development? You know, people hear self-development. What does that look like for you guys? How do you accomplish that?
Yeah.
Specifically, like, what do you guys do?
Yeah.
Well, for us, you know, and you're right, self-development can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people, depending on, you know, where they're at in the cycle of life.
Right.
And what do they want to achieve? Where do they want to be? You know, where do they see themselves? So for us, you know, we're constantly dreaming. You know, we have a big vision, and then we reverse engineer that. So we figure out like how, you know, who do we need to become to achieve this?
Right.
And so for us, like, you know, if it's communication, if it's, you know, if we have to self-develop spiritually, if we have to self-develop in a way that gives us confidence to show up in the world in a sophisticated way and accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, if it's, you know, how to have meaningful relationships. So it's like you just pick different categories on things that you want to improve on.
Right.
And then you dive in deep into that.
And you work on it.
And you work on it.
Do you guys work on it? You guys talk about this? Do you work on it together, or is it like kind of like you're independently working on it and you're just kind of in tune with one another? How's that look for you guys?
Yeah.
I would say most of the time we work on it independently.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we tried the other version, especially me. I was like, we need to do this and we need to do that. And it's
this
got to be
time,
this way,
we're
it's
gonna
gotta
do
be
this.
that way.
Okay, that doesn't
And
work
you
for
better
me
know
either.
this, and you better know that. And I'm trying to talk about this and you're talking about that. So, you know, the reality is that is what I've learned this far, and it took me a long time, was like, I need to let Brooke do what Brooke's going to do.
Right.
I just need to be confident and we need to trust each other that we're both headed in that direction. And if it means that I've got to work on something different than she's got to work on, or, you know, whatever she needs to do for herself.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. I just focus on me.
Right. So your needs are individual to hers.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys, but you're both working on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of trust
Right.
too. So I know when the time comes, he's going to show up to the table ready.
You're right.
And I know that he, you know, is trusting that I will too. So those self-developments might be individual to each person, but then when it's game time, like we put the training in, we've got each other. We know how to pass the ball. We know how to, you know, make it happen. So
we also know like where we're good at. And so Brooke is not confrontational.
Right.
I love being confrontational.
Oh boy, I better be careful.
Like I love it.
Hey, you know, this is not a
not a bad thing.
This is a non-confrontational podcast, though. Okay.
Yeah, but confrontation isn't always negative.
I hear you.
Confrontation is positive.
That's right. Correct.
Especially if we're doing it correctly.
Right.
It can be positive because we got to face our fucking demons, dude. We got to
Right.
face our stuff.
Right.
You know, we got to face the challenges, and we can't hide. You know, there's nowhere to run.
Yeah, you're right. The sooner you
so-
confront an obstacle or a situation or a problem, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, one of the things that helps me confront is just honesty.
Right.
Here's the truth. I'm not showing up with a bunch of garbage, saying a bunch of shit that doesn't mean anything or nobody understands. It's like, this is the data, guys.
Right. You're not
So,
being emotional about it.
If it's my fault, I take responsibility for XYZ things. This is what I'm going to do to improve. But what are you going to do?
Right.
And I figure out how to find those commonalities and those goals that we each have, those shared interests. And if they align so that we can both accomplish whatever that challenge is, great. If the other person's goals are something different, then it's like, well, clearly you're contributing to the negative side of this.
Right.
You're making things more difficult. And I still love confronting that because it's like, look, I'm helping you out. Mm-hmm. And if it means I got to tell you to walk away, then you're going to walk away.
Right.
You know, and one thing that I've learned now moving forward is in those confrontations, I used to feel really guilty. Mm-hmm. Like, man, you know, this person doesn't like me for this reason, or somebody said something to me where I'm like, they're not talking about my performance. It's behavior. It's emotional. It's like, I don't know why we're having those conversations. It was confusing.
Sure.
But that's what self-development does. It allows me to see like, oh, I see. In this situation, somebody else was projecting themselves in this particular situation that took us sideways, and we got off track to what we're really doing here, and what the real problem is. And so now, like, when, you know, if things don't work out, it's like, that's fine. It wasn't meant to be. I need to find somebody better, sharper, more focused, more determined, disciplined.
Yes, there's a couple of things there. Number one, you're not allowing people to project their insecurities onto you. Mm-hmm. And really, at the end of the day, when you're confronting a situation that needs to be addressed, you're actually helping that other person as well, because this is a situation that needs to be addressed, and you're not doing them a favor by not confronting it.
Exactly.
Because if they are aligned, we're going to get back on track together. If we're not aligned, well, then we're going to part ways. Yeah. Right.
And that sounds pretty positive to me.
Yes, exactly. And that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you could take the emotion out of it, and that's the key, that's about developing yourself and being able to handle those situations that you don't bring up trauma from the past, or like your skeletons that are in a closet, that you're making this about something else. And if everybody can bring that, all parties can bring that to the situation or the conversation, you have a much more healthy conversation. Mm-hmm. So, and also I hear is you guys are really you work to clearly define the roles in your partnership, whether it be, you know, work or family or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same thing there's very rarely a moment in my marriage with my wife where we haven't clearly defined who's responsible for what. Mm-hmm. And there are times where I'm responsible for something where I might need some help, or the other way around, and we ask for it, but there's never like, hey, who's got the ball right now?
Right.
We know.
Right.
we communicate this.
Yeah. And how do you guys do that?
I just give her 99% of the responsibilities, and I just do 1%.
There you go.
No,
that
heavy lifting. And I show up just to take credit.
Well, one thing, I'm in finance, first of all.
Yeah.
But out of all seriousness, this is something we've worked on over the years, where we've learned what we're both stronger at, mm-hmm. and how this has evolved with a family dynamic of having children. And as the children grow in their ages, they grow up and their needs change, and what happened, the dynamic changes, it sort of evolves. But we're always talking about and discussing it, and we always understand like where the responsibilities lie and who needs to do what. Where do we need to get help from a nanny? Where do we need to get, where does the dad come in? Where's the mom come in? So we're always communicating about that.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, a family is like a business, right? You know, everybody needs roles and responsibilities.
It really is.
They need to be held accountable. They need that discipline.
Yeah. And I think that I always say that your most important role as a leader is going to be a parent. Mm-hmm. Like when you think about leadership and you work on leadership development and you learn to become a better leader, your single most important leadership job in your entire life, if you have children, is being a parent. And so I approach like being a dad as being a leader, and teaching, I'm coaching and developing them.
And kids are good negotiators.
They challenge you.
The hardest negotiators ever.
That's right.
So, I mean.
And and that's good, right?
Right.
Right.
And they're honest with you.
Yeah. But and how do you work with that, but not kill that spirit?
Yes.
Because that is going to be so useful when they're adults, where they're so persistent, they don't give up. And how many times has that worked for you guys, just being persistent and not giving up? Mm-hmm. But here our children are, and we're like, man, they don't give up.
Yeah.
But that's really a good thing.
Right.
Just like, hey, I hear you. It's okay. I said no. I know they're going to ask 5 more times. No, all right, whatever. Then there's always a breaking point where I'm like, all right, stop asking.
Right. It just depends like what they want.
Right.
You know, if it's something like, look, trust me, I'm telling you no because you are going to thank me later.
Yes.
You know, so there's those moments where it's like, all right, you got to knock it off.
Right.
But then there's moments where it's like, okay, how do we cultivate this? How do we align it for them to make sense of what they're asking for?
Right.
And is there something there? Because, you know, I always focus on like, what are their potentials? You know, like our kids travel a lot with us when we're looking at property. You know, Jackson has come with me to there's a high rise that I own in Miami. And, you know, like after we left there, we went to a Walgreens because I was picking a few things up and he asked me if I own the building. And I was like, no, but if we did, what would you sell?
Okay.
And he was like, I'd sell a lot of candy.
Right.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. But I was asking him questions like, hey, how do you think we make money here?
Right.
Because he was like asking like what the people are doing here. And I'm like, well, what does it look like they're doing? So I try and figure out like ways to get them thinking and just like getting their creativity up. And Chanel's very creative. Jackson, he wants to know.
Right.
Like he needs a week. He needs to be like, he needs an explanation of what things are going to look like.
Right.
And, you know, he's that person. He's an analyzer.
Right.
And Chanel, she's more of a driver. She'll bulldoze.
Right.
Yeah.
So you recognize the strengths in your children, you're learning about it, and you realize that you want to nurture this because this is going to be useful for them if they take that strength and put it in the right direction in the future of their lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 1,000%. How do you do it?
How do I do?
How do you cultivate their, like, you know, their inspirations and aspirations? And, you know, I see that you put them, what is that called? They do horseback
Equestrian,
riding.
right. So you let them just self-discover what their interests are, and it might take one longer than the others. Like one of my daughters, very quickly was right away equestrian, where another daughter needs a lot more experiments to try different activities. So let them discover what they're interested in at that age. Let them be curious and let them make some of the decisions. Don't force them to do an activity that they're not going to really want to do. Yeah. Like let them it's all about them finding the vehicle of what they're, when you think about equestrian and sports or hobbies or interests for children, let them discover what it is they're interested in, and then use that vehicle to teach them the life lessons they're going to need as adults. Like, so if it's any kind of, they're going to learn how to be coached. So we want our children to get into something where they're coached because most adults are very uncoachable and very untrainable. So if you can if they can become coachable and trainable, let them fail, because failure is part of life, and build up resilience to how to come back. So it really doesn't matter whether they're ballet, cheerleading, equestrian, softball, basketball. They all have these lessons. And when we get in these programs, who's the coach? Because I want a coach that's going to have the right mindset and not damage them, right? Because as soon as I see that, I pull them out of the program.
Yep. Yeah. You know, one thing that I learned recently too is, so Jackson, we put him in soccer, and in the school that he's in, so he has to come home, he has to do his homework, and then he has to teach Chanel how to do the homework.
Oh, nice.
And then in soccer, Chanel also does soccer, so Jackson's got to not only listen to the coach, but then reiterate what the coach is saying to Chanel, so she follows the instructions.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's like, that's been so powerful.
Because now
when
they're
they
really
can learn
learn
it and then teach it simultaneously,
right?
Then he's just like extra aware, extra paying attention, because he's got to figure out how to communicate that.
Yes.
And oftentimes, like, you know, that's one of the things that we focus on too as a family is confidence and communication. And that's been powerful. That's been powerful.
Yes.
You know, getting them to talk to strangers.
Yes.
Getting them to say hi, and then demonstrating what that looks like.
Yeah, and we've been conditioned as children in society, don't talk to strangers.
Yep.
But think about that. How's that going to work when you get into the real world, when you have to do nothing but talk to strangers to make things happen for you? And your whole life, you've been told and conditioned not to speak to strangers. So, of course, you want to have caution and be careful to some extent, but you want your children to be talking to people they don't even know.
Right.
Yep.
And we'll ask the kids too. We'll say, you know, after the conversation, we'll say, why was it okay to talk to them? So that they are aware okay, well, I was in a safe environment.
That's right.
My parents were with me. They were friendly or whatever the situation is, right? But it's like bringing awareness to why was that okay, and why were you able to do that, and why in another situation would you not be able to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and also I think like a lot of parents are like, don't talk to strangers. What we should be telling the kids is how to talk to strangers.
Right.
You know, what does a positive conversation look like, and
Yes.
what does a negative conversation look like?
Right.
And so, and so when, you know, in our building, there's a lot of great people, a lot of interesting people, a lot of amazing, incredible people. And it's like, I want my kids to talk to their kids. And so, you know, I really just push them into it. Like, hey, go say this, you know, ask them this question. Cause when you go into a conversation, asking questions, especially strangers, that's a great conversation starter. And it's a great way to break the ice.
Everyone likes to talk about themselves.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
go ask a question.
Yeah.
And so that's how we teach the kids how to have those conversations.
That's great.
Right.
You know, and it's like they're not, you know, and also I think a lot of people assume that the kids are just dumb, but the kids are actually really sharp.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're sharper than us.
Yeah.
Sometimes they see things that we don't see. And they're learning even when it looks like they're not, even when it appears like they're not paying attention, they are paying attention.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're smart, dude.
We talk about that at home with my wife. I'm like, I'll sometimes have to remind my wife, I said, right now they hear everything you were saying
Yep.
right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
They might not be like acting like they are, but they are. Because like 5 minutes later, I'll come back in and repeat, hey, what were you saying about the horse? And then that you want to sell the horse?
Yeah, right. So I always think of this. I'm going to treat my kids like they're smart.
Right.
I'm going to treat them like they're geniuses, like
Right.
they're brilliant.
And the way and that's right. And we approach with them is say, hey, you can develop how intelligent you are. It's not like you're fixed this smart. So you have unlimited capacity to learn that you don't even realize. So just keep working on it and you're going to become smarter and smarter. So when they're doing well, like, wow, look, you're getting smarter. It's because you're working on it, right? Like you're developing, you're studying. You did well on the test because you're getting smarter, as opposed to like, I'm not smart enough to pass that test, or like I'm limited in how well I can do. We all have unlimited capacity.
Yep.
So, you know, when you think about life and like this unlimited capacity and abundance in life, you know, a real topic a lot of people struggle with is real estate investing. And you guys have been really successful with that. And you have like sort of a niche that you have a particular area where you specialize in, and that's really converted into cash cow capital. So it was community opportunity and wealth for cow, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I looked that up.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. So let's just talk about real estate investing. How did you guys get started in it? And maybe you could share also like one of your greatest achievements in that field.
Sure.
Where did it start? How does it get there? Did you guys start together or separately, or like?
Yeah. So
We started together.
We did. So we met in high school. We went to high school together, and we were friends for 2 years before we started dating. But when we started dating, we immediately wanted to do a business together. So we were such good friends that like the romantic side of things was like we were already there, you know, whereas a lot of people start dating and then they go through these like getting to know each other. Like we were fast tracked all of that. So immediately we wanted to start a business. So we were looking at daycares, nightclubs, bars, and just none of it really set with us. And then we ended up going to a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar.
Okay.
And for 3 days, they sold us on real estate and why we need to do real estate. And we were like so bought in.
Okay.
The third day, they're like, if you have $10,000, we'll show your hand, we'll hold your hand, we'll show you how to invest in real estate. And we were like, if we had $10,000, we're going to invest ourselves.
How many years ago is this?
16.
God, yeah. I was
About-
like 19.
Okay. Oh, so you guys were very young. Okay.
Like I was 18.
Yeah. So I was 19.
Like we were,
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like fresh out of high school. Like
Yeah,
we
I had
were the
already been out
youngest.
of. Yeah, I had already been out of high school for a year.
Okay, so you guys are still
Yeah.
young, right?
Yeah.
Just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
So
very
we-
survival based.
Right.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I grew up in extreme poverty. Like we were broke. My dad milked cows at a dairy. My mom, she mowed the fields at the dairy. And we lived in a house that was provided to us by the dairy owner.
Okay.
So that my dad can be like right there to milk the cows like any time of the day.
Right.
And so, you know, getting out of that, we moved to a place called Vancouver. And so that was
Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver, Washington. That's when my parents became first-time homeowners. And so we lived there for a few years. I think it was like 3 to 4 years after I moved out. But we were like barely getting by as well. It was like, that was like their big achievement. So anyway,
So $10,000 is a lot of money at that point, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have a savings. We didn't have like a credit. Probably didn't even have a bank account at that
Yeah,
point.
we didn't have anything.
So we were like, if we had $10,000, we're going to invest it. We're not going to give it to them because then we're not going to have any money to invest. And how are we going to pay them back? You know? So that's precisely what we did. We started looking for an investment opportunity, and we came across one, and it was a fourplex. It was bank owned. It had been sitting vacant for 2+ years. And the only way for us to buy it was through hard money. And so we needed $150,000.
So hard money for the audience. What is hard
Yeah.
money?
So basically not bank financing.
Got
You're
it.
going to have to find somebody that's going to just trust you with this money and loan it to you for a very, very high amount.
Okay.
Interest.
So it was a 14% loan, 4 points up front. So
Right.
we needed $8,000 for this loan. So we basically like scrounged it up through friends and family, well, family mainly, and begged this guy. Because I mean, he's looking at us like these teenagers are going to buy this fourplex. You don't have any experience, you don't have any savings, you don't have any type of credit, and you want me to loan you $150,000. And so I just like begged this guy. I was like, we're gonna do it. Here's our plan. Like, this is gonna be amazing.
Do you realize how much courage this takes?
Oh my gosh. At the time, I think we were like a little crazy because
Well,
looking back,
There was a
you're
lot
like,
we didn't
no
think
way.
about.
Well, look,
Yeah.
you need to be crazy to be an entrepreneur, though.
Yeah.
If you cannot make sense of everything, you have to be a little crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, and when we were gonna buy it, Brooke and I, we sat in the car and we looked at each other and we're like, look, long story short, if anything goes wrong, we're not gonna blame each other.
Okay.
We're not gonna what did we say? So one of them was, if this doesn't go the way we intended to go, we're not gonna get mad at each other. We're not gonna blame each other. We're gonna be in this together. And we just like I can't remember
we weren't
exactly.
even married at the time.
But
I don't think I picture you guys have never argued before.
it's rare that we argue.
It is rare, I will say. And I do
Good.
feel like that's a rare thing in general because, you know, I mean,
You guys are so aligned. It's great.
right. Like we're just constantly like on the same page.
Yeah,
about stuff.
and you're confronting things early.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So
Yeah.
keep going. I don't want to interrupt. This is great.
Yeah. Well, you know, we sat in the car and we went through all that. We went through like a list of things we were not going to do, how we weren't going to get mad at each other, and it wasn't going to be something that was going to get between us. And, you know, we really laid it out. We just agreed that,
Great.
okay, all right, we're all in. And so we bought the fourplex.
How'd the deal work out for you guys?
Well, so
It's your first deal.
it was actually our fourth deal.
Okay.
We had already bought a couple single family homes, but we weren't making any money.
Okay, sure.
We were confused. We're like,
Because they were
dude,
single families.
yeah, they were single families. I mean, we're making like $50 on one of them. I think $100 on another one.
Right.
And it's like,
With
you
a
know,
lot of
they're-
headaches.
Yeah, there are a
To
lot of
us,
headaches.
though, the $50 a month was like, oh yeah,
Well,
like
just
we did it.
for me, it was like, I own that was cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But we weren't making any money. And we're like, dude, how are these other people doing it? And it's like, we just really decided that we need to go bigger. Let's go duplex, fourplex, sixplex, and, you know, grow that way. So when we found this, it was bank owned. And so we needed to come in with a hard money lender or pay cash for the deal because it was non-financeable. And so that's where Brooke came in, found a lender, talked to the lender, She sold us on that lender and or sold us to the lender, and he agreed to loan us $140,000, and it was 18%, 4 points every 6 months, and so we came in with 10 grand, but I didn't realize that the property needed about $100,000 worth of work. The roof was
Details.
leaking.
Oh boy.
He loaned us the money for 6 months too, by the way. 6
Okay.
months, which we thought were like, oh, no problem.
So I quickly had to jump into like maintenance mode and repair mode. And I went in there and made a list of all the things that needed to get done. There was broken windows. There were doors missing. There was hinges broken. I mean, there was just a lot of different things.
So
The plumbing wasn't even connected.
These are mistakes that people getting into real estate investing can make on their own, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you made them, right?
We made them.
And you've learned from them.
Yeah.
I also feel like what motivated us too is there was a lot of people, like even the mail carrier would come through and be like, you guys bought this place? Like, you're idiots.
Yeah.
Of course,
And
you got
like
the
family,
doubters.
you know, they're like, you guys aren't even married and now you guys have this investment together. Like just so many naysayers, right? And so it motivated
That's a
us.
sign.
Right. We were like, all
You're
right,
onto
well, now
something.
we're going to make this like, now we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And I had somebody call me and was like, what did you do? What did you do? And I'm just like, dude, I don't fucking know what I did. I don't even know.
But you had the courage to take a leap, right?
Yeah.
But-
yeah.
So this evolves.
Our only option was to be successful.
Right.
Our only option was to make this a win. I mean, we went into it with full intention to make it a prosperous investment.
Right.
And so when I learned about all these things that needed to happen, we had no money to get it done. So I'm calling contractors to give me bids and I'm asking them questions. I mean, I practically lived there for 6 months. I mean, there was time that we were cleaning out and like, you know, going to the dump and we didn't have enough money to get back to our house. So we slept there because we didn't have enough money to put gas in the truck. We're like, we need to go to the dump. So we were very calculated with like how much money we had.
Right.
And so I had to
we
figure-
also would like go to Home Depot and negotiate.
yeah.
So you can negotiate at Home Depot, by the way.
Okay.
And we would negotiate hard.
Nice.
Like,
Yeah.
they'd be like, guys, this is already on sale. We're like, no. We need it for this price.
Yeah.
And like Christian, dude, he got Home Depot so many times for us. We were like, yeah, he'd come out and I just knew
Yeah.
by his walk.
Oh,
that
is it a
he's
new
like,
Home Depot negotiating course coming
yeah,
up?
right.
So yeah, I mean, but those are things where it's like, dude, I had to get over myself. You know, I had to figure out how to get things at a discount.
So it was hard, right?
It was very hard.
a lot of sacrifice.
So then I had to figure out how to do a lot of the repairs myself. I figured out how to do electrical work, how to do plumbing work, how to lay carpet, how to lay linoleum, how to replace fixtures and faucets and doors. I mean, I learned all that stuff and I called in help, you know, and I had people kind of like come in and help me out here and there. But most importantly, I'm like, look, you don't even need to do anything. Just show me how to do it. Give me like 10 minutes. Just show me what I need to do. And if I can call you when I run into something that I don't know how to do and you can walk me through it, great. That's enough. Like I didn't mind doing the work myself.
Right.
I wasn't like, oh my God, I need to, you know, I'm going to hire a contractor and they're just going to solve all my problems. And no, I got in there, dude. I rolled my sleeves up. I mean, Brooke and I, we painted the whole things by ourselves. And that was a whole nother thing because she painted all the cabinets and the railings. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But anyway, you know, so we fixed the roof. Within 1 month, we weren't even done. We were halfway done. We were like, okay, we need income. We need cash flow coming in. So Brooke found us some tenants, filled up one of the duplexes because they were 2 duplexes next to each other that ultimately created a 4plex. So Brooke got one of the duplexes filled while I was still finishing the other one. And then within like 2 weeks after the first month, she got the second one filled. So like now we had tenants in there. So now things intensified because I'm getting called all the time like, this is broken. I mean, if you could imagine someone who has no idea what they're doing, fixing plumbing, electrical, doors, windows, all that stuff, like this stuff was breaking, wasn't holding up. It just was not, the quality was not there. And so there was just a lot of things happening that had come back and replace and fix and solve. And it's a lot harder when you have tenants in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went through about 6 months of hell. on the day that we had to repay back the loan, Brooke had found someone to buy the property from us, and they bought it for exactly how much we were in it for. What did they pay? $190,000?
I think so.
They paid $190,000.
Because what we realized, I thought we were just going to refinance with a bank
Yeah.
and hold the asset and it'd be good. But you have
Yeah.
a seasoning period with something like that.
Yeah,
Right.
we didn't know.
Okay.
And
So our
so
only exit strategy was we had to find somebody to buy this place.
we had no more money to put in this place. I already had a bunch of IOUs out there. So by the time the sky closed, we go home. We're looking at our closing document, and literally it was like $5, and we just felt like the biggest idiots.
But you learned so much.
The biggest losers, man. We just sat there in silence, just like, why the fuck would somebody do this? Like, we are so stupid.
How long did it take you to realize you learned so much with the experience, though? Did it take years or?
No,
when
it
do
took like an hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yes.
Because
And
then
so
we started laughing.
after what seemed like about an hour, we're just sitting there in silence, like just thinking, all this for nothing. But the good news is everybody was made whole. There was not one person that we left owing any money to or anything to.
Yeah.
And so we felt really good about that. And that was a great win for us. That was a huge accomplishment for us. But to get done and have like, it was like $4.92 or whatever,
So
and have that much money left over.
Yeah.
We were just like, dude, I'm like ashamed to even tell anybody this. And after about an hour of just sitting there, we started laughing uncontrollably. Like we just were laughing at ourselves. We were like, dude, who the hell would do this? Like, this is so funny. Like I was so stressed out. You know, we went through this, we did this. We were so scared. We were so nervous. Like we told this person that thing, we got 18%. Like we just really were going down. Like, I can't believe like we went through all that just to end up where we are right now. But the good news is, like, about an hour later, we're like, let's go do it again.
All right, so-
and this time we know exactly what not to do.
that's right. So like you've got that example. Now tell us about one of your greatest accomplishments where the results were amazing. Like give me one of your examples.
Man, after that, I think there's a lot of
One that you
lot
would,
of great
that the
ones.
audience would really appreciate, like in terms of where, wow, look what they turned that experience into this experience.
Yeah.
I know you guys had an exit on one of your
Yeah.
deals, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. That was big.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So we worked for a company that we scaled their company from 6 million in revenue to over 25 million in revenue. We exited from that company and basically went full force on our own. And we built up 100 million in assets in specifically mobile home parks and RV resorts.
Right.
And then we sold 7-8 million worth
Nice.
of those properties. Thank you. And now we're looking to do that exact thing on a much larger scale.
Right. See, real estate investing is so scary for so many people. They're so confused about it. And I know now you've got cash cow capital.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the impact your guys are, the intention of that organization and what you're hoping to accomplish. I shouldn't say hope. That's a horrible word that you're going to accomplish with that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said it. It's scary for a lot of people. It was scary for us. And our goal now with Cash Cow Capital is not only to do what we did, but on a much larger scale, but also educate our investors on what we're doing and how we're repositioning properties. And so something that helped us along the way was figuring out how to completely capitalize on each individual unit. So for us, manufactured housing communities, we would get site rent, and then we would sell the homes at about 20 to 40% above margin. And then we would seller finance between 5 and 7% on those homes.
Right.
And so now it's like, now we're earning 3 streams of revenue per pad.
Yeah.
And that, and when you reposition them that way and then sell them off, they're just the equity, the evaluation on those are much higher.
Right.
People are looking for experience-based living now. So really with COVID, it pushed people to be mobile. It pushed people out there.
Yes,
made them realize you don't have to be stationary in one spot. And so it allowed us to really gain momentum in that area because the RV lifestyle, it's RV and mobile home park living. A lot of people have a stereotype around it. So, they're like, it's last resort living, it's low income. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing that this is a chosen lifestyle for people. We're seeing that people want this. They want to experience things with their families. And so the investment opportunities in these assets are so abundant that I don't think people realize. And that's something that Christian was saying, like we've really tailored exactly how to capitalize on these investment opportunities, but then provide living areas for people that are also abundant and profitable for their own selves. With their investment into a community, they want to make sure that their manufactured home is increasing in value. You have to have the right landlord for that to happen.
So every property we bought, I would go in there and I would create a vision for the property of what I was going to do to it and what types of improvements needed to be made. And so I would talk to the people, and little things like lighting, garbage cans, cleaning up the dumpster areas, just doing like regular small things, improving parking, improving the direction of which people are exiting and entering.
Yeah,
and so,
those little things are what we complain about, like, the trash doesn't get picked up on time.
Right.
Those little things you would never know unless you ask. Unless you ask the tenants, but that's going to make a world of difference because that's what they complain about. And now all of a sudden you remove that experience, it's so much better.
Exactly.
And also
landscaping
through our experiences of single family and just these other multifamily projects, what really was appealing for the mobile home park opportunities for us was the fact that we didn't own the structures. So we're not responsible if somebody's toilet's leaking or their faucet's running. I mean, we're just responsible for, the overall, the bigger picture of things.
Well, that's what got us into manufactured housing communities.
Yeah.
And RV resorts is so we after the fourplex, we went on to buy more houses.
You didn't want to do that again.
Yeah. And so, we went to this meetup, a local meetup, and there was this Jewish guy with the hat and the curls and the trench coat. And he's like, this is what your mailbox looks like if you own single family homes. And it was a mailbox with a few envelopes in there. And then he's like, but this is what your mailbox could look like if you own mobile home parks. And it was a mailbox stuffed with cash. And Brooke and I looked at each other and was like, that's what we want. And he started going down the operations of it and connecting the dots on how they work and how they function and how to operate them. And it just clicked with us. It made so much sense because it's like you own the land and you own the infrastructure, but you don't own the structures above the land. Like you can sell those off. And it was like you don't own it. And then you just create rules and regulations and policies around the communities where people have to like figure out how to maintain their own homes in order. And it just like really allowed us to understand a different class of real estate that we loved. And so then Brooke found a 12-site mobile home park in Kaiser, Oregon on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And so we bought that.
That was our first mobile home park investment.
Good old
was on
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we, Brooke lined it all up and we went out there, we met the owner, and the owner, it was a 6 RV sites and 6 mobile homes. And he was just telling us about how he's already had like heart attacks fixing these homes and he didn't want to sell them because he thought he could earn more. So anyway, he started going on about how he does it. And he's just like very, very specific in particular and how he wants things done. And he was just overdoing it in all the wrong ways.
Right.
And so it left him with 12 pissed off tenants that weren't getting what they wanted. So every time there was a rent increase, they would get pissed off and they didn't like it and they didn't see why they had to pay for it. And it just, he was creating a revolt. So when I went in there and we bought the place, I really discussed with everyone what they wanted. And the reason why that was important is because number one, it was my first deal. I needed to understand this thing. I needed to understand who these people are, why they live here, what they're doing here. I needed to understand their expectations, and I just needed to understand the environment and what I was going to do to help it thrive. And so my goal ended up becoming, I'm here to protect their investment. If you buy a home in my community, I want you to walk away making money.
Right.
Because a lot of times the landlords, they just let these communities go to shit, and, they turn into, meth infested trailer parks.
Right. They're not taking care of it.
I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted a place where people could live there and thrive and flourish. And if they wanted to move on to something else, they could sell their home for, $20,000 more than what they paid for it.
So what I'm hearing is that community is important for you. When you're making an investment, you want to make sure that's got a positive community and it's good for the tenants.
Well, yeah, because then I had to sell the homes to the tenants.
Right.
And so that was one of our goals, is how am I going to get the tenants to appreciate the property so much that they're willing to actually buy the unit that they've been living in for however many years. Right. And so I had to figure out how to sell it to them. And what I learned, it wasn't about selling the home. It wasn't even about selling the community. It was about selling who I was and what they could expect from me as a landlord.
Right.
And it just really, it put me on a different level, a different mindset and thought process when we would go in and buy mobile home parks and RV resorts, because it wasn't so much about the community itself. It's who we were and what we were, who we were going to be as landlords,
right? And
what contributions are we going to make to the property to help elevate everyone's lifestyle.
Right. What you represented was important. And it can relate to that, or they can relate to a person representing something better than a thing.
Yep.
So before we end, this a question I like to ask people, and because you clearly awesome family, you guys are emotionally, physically, mentally really healthy. You're financially really healthy. You've had a lot of success, and you've accomplished all of this. What do you guys think about work-life balance? What does that mean to you and to you guys? And what's your approach and what's your opinion about work-life balance? Because a lot of us are conditioned in society today about this work-life balance, where, hey, make sure you just work 40 hours and the rest of that time you've got to yourself. Your thoughts?
Well, for me, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think it could exist for some people, but it just depends what you want. And I think for us, it's more of a lifestyle. We work, we're working while we're being a family. We're being a family while we're being husband and wife. We're being husband and wife while we're working, and it's all in one.
Right.
Like we fit everything into one day.
So you don't have these silos.
No.
Like, it's just your life. It's part of your life.
Right. There is no, when it comes 5 o'clock, we're turning off business and we're turning on mom and dad.
Right.
It's all meshed the same. And our kids, they understand that lifestyle too. They know that 1 second we could be playing Legos and it's like, oh, mom's got to take a call. And then he's curious about the call,
Right.
or whatever it is. But we just incorporate that lifestyle with our kids so that they can experience that too.
You're setting an example for them.
Right. They shouldn't be sheltered from our work life. They should
Right.
be included as much as they possibly can so that they can see what's possible. They can see and experience what they're interested in or what's fun for them. And so, yeah,
I think you have to have your work has to be aligned with your goals. It's like you have to have this alignment in life. If you want to accomplish big things, you're going to need to you're going to need to incorporate work into your life. If you have small goals and small dreams, well, then you could put it into this little silo. But if you really want to accomplish big things, it just becomes part of your life. And I don't know sometimes, isn't it great when you're like, I don't know if I'm working or not right now?
Yeah.
I was going to add, work for us is fun.
Yes.
That is our hobby. We don't have a specific hobby. Work is our hobby. So it's fun for us. So we don't feel like we're working.
Yeah, I haven't worked in 15 years. I don't even know what work is.
That's great. Because you're working to accomplish your goals.
Yeah.
I remember my dad one time was like, look, work is work. You're supposed to hate it. It's not supposed to be fun. If it was fun, they'd call it fun time, but that's why it's called work. And he was telling me this as I'm pissed off that he volunteered me to go pick the neighbor's weeds for $2 an hour. And I'm like, dude, it's hot. Like I was complaining about it, and he goes, you're not supposed to enjoy it. And it just occurred to me right then and there. I'm like, that sucks. There's like, I couldn't accept it.
Right.
I'm like, that's not going to be me. How could you live life not enjoying what you do, not enjoying your life, not enjoying, what life has to offer, and how to go out there and get it. And that pursuit, like I just quickly learned that I had to figure out that I was going to enjoy what I had to learn what I enjoyed and what was going to bring me happiness and joy and make me feel like I'm not working.
Right.
And to me, it was real estate. It fulfilled me.
Right.
I mean, not only is it sexy to like be able to point at stuff and be like, I own that. And I mean, real estate creates more millionaires than anything else in the world.
Yes.
And you can get there faster, and you can bring people along with you. And I mean, it's like if you own a building, right? You own 200 units, that if you're getting $1,000 per unit, you hire 2 property managers to manage your asset, and it's like you're paying 2 people to run your business. Versus, when you have another business, you have to have a bunch of people, and there's just a lot more mechanics involved and processes. And when you own real estate, it's very straightforward.
Right.
This is our objective. Here's what we're accomplishing, and it's easy to create metrics and then measure them from there every month.
That's amazing.
And then you get tax write-offs and appreciation and depreciation, and if you do it long enough, 10 years, you could have $20-30 million.
That's amazing. So how do people connect with you to learn from you how to do this, or just to connect with you because for the guests on our episode here?
Yeah, well, for me, they can connect on Instagram at Christian F. Torres.
Right.
And mine is the Brooke Torres on Instagram, or you can check us out at cashcowcapital.com.
So that's cashcowcapital.com.
Yep.
Check them out on cashcowcapital.com. All right, you guys are amazing. Looking forward to so much more success. I want to thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah,
2 amazing people.
Thank you, man. You're amazing.
You're
You look
amazing.
awesome, bro.
You look awesome.
You look fantastic, dude.
Thank you.
That's all for today's Steve Lags Unfiltered journey. Keep soaring, leading, and conquering with us. Remember, it's not just about listening. It's about learning and taking action. If today ignited your drive, join us next time for more unfiltered wisdom. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to fuel your success journey. Also, be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcast channel or outlet. Stay tuned, stay unfiltered, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Boom.